Hey there, I'm Dr. Deb. It is Thursday, and that's why we're having this. So, welcome. Tonight, we're going to be talking about anxiety is synonymous with abuse. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm being right honest, right open about that. First thing I want to say is last week the chat didn't work. It looks like it's working. I don't have a little sign that says it's not working. So please chat in. Say hi. Tell me if you agree, disagree, don't understand, do understand, have a comment, whatever. I don't like talking to myself. I say this every week and it's true. I want to talk to you guys. And I know you're there, but it feels better when you talk back. One of those cases where I want talking back. Okay, so you're all probably wondering, what is she talking about? First of all, it's super important for you to know that I am not blaming anyone. If someone is anxious, they do need help for it. Just like if someone is depressed, they need help for it. If someone has a temper, they need help for it, okay? Obviously, I feel that way because I'm a therapist, but I really do believe, my name is Deborah. Deb is short for Deborah. And there was a lady back in biblical times who sat under a tree and everyone came to her for advice. And I figured that's why they named me Deborah. Actually, I learned much later in life that I was named after an aunt from the past. And she was named after, she had the same name. So that name kept being passed down, but it's worthwhile to understand that even in biblical times, people were looking for help. They needed advice. So here I am. So I do believe that therapy is definitely needed for people in those situations. So let's get right to it. What is it? I'm going to ask you this question. What is it that anxious people don't have? I came up with a little list and I'd like to hear from you. I don't want you waiting for me. I want you to tell me what you think. What is it that anxious people don't have? Oh, chat is disconnected? Oh no. Why is that? Oh no. It was working a minute ago. I don't understand it. Pop out chat. Restore chat. I don't know why it's disconnected. Okay, you can't tell me then, so I'll have to tell you. Oh, doggone it. Unable to connect. Please try again later. I don't understand it. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, one of the things that people who are anxious don't have is patience. They are not calm, true. But see, the difference I see it between calm and patience is follows. Calm is a state that you cannot be in all the time. There are times when you have to run to cross the street before the light changes, or run to catch a train that you're going to miss and be very late, or something. There are times when running and not being calm is perfectly normal and healthy. Maybe you wouldn't be calm if you were taking a test or speaking in front of a group because you don't want to be too calm, right? You want to have a little adrenaline. Patience is something else. Patience is not so much a physical state of calm as it is a mental state of the ability to handle time. Time goes by and you can wait and it's all good. I believe that is the difference between calm and patience. So one of the most important things that a person with anxiety does not have is patience. Yeah, they probably don't have calm too, but you know what? They might. They actually could have moments of calm when they're not being provoked. The real issue is having patience with others and with themselves, having patience to see something through, having patience to wait. People who are have anxiety or are anxious don't have that. I keep looking at this chat trying to figure out what's going to make it work. And last time the same thing happened, and I don't know. Live chat. Oh, now it's working. Yay! And somebody says presence in parasympathetic state. Okay. Somebody says, yeah, it keeps freezing. I know. I don't think it's on my end, but I hope not. I don't know. I mean, my internet worked all day long. It only is for this that it seems to not work. I don't know. And somebody said, I wish she could see the chat. Now I found it. And good evening. Thank you all for, okay, great. So that's the first thing. Now that we know chat is working, I don't want to take this away from you. What else does a person who is anxious not have? What are they missing? Peace. Okay. Yeah, I would say the inner peace kind of thing that goes along with patience, maybe, but that's a nice one. Okay. Yeah, because they're constantly worried. What else does a person not have who is anxious? You guys give it a shot. Give it a shot. I'm going to open my notes too. It took me a while to think of it. Regulation skills. Whoa, good. That actually was on my list. Self-regulation. Yeah. Self-control. Yeah. That's it. I have that one on my list. Yeah, good. How about something more esoteric, something more in the less tangible place in our lives? Something spiritual. What does a person who is anxious not have? Faith. Yes, thank you. Faith. I totally believe that when I work with people who believe in God, they say they do, there has to be a disconnect because they really don't believe that God's going to be there for them solving their problems. And the truth is, God doesn't solve all our problems. We've still got to do it ourselves. But we have to have some amount of faith that if we try, he'll come along or she'll come along and help us. I think that's crucial. Great. What else does a person not have who's anxious? We got 3 now. We have a lack of patience, a lack of faith, and a lack of skills to self-regulate. Trauma can create that lack of faith, of course. Right. Again, as I started, I don't know if you were here the first few minutes, I said this is not a blame thing. I'm not blaming a person for being this way. I just want to kind of have a good picture of what they're doing, their effect on others in the world, and why it can come down to looking like abuse. Self-love, that's right. They don't have self-love. Excellent. self-confidence, security. Yes, all that self stuff. Right. Excellent. There's one more that I wrote down, which, you know what? The person who said trauma, I'll give you a cookie on that. They don't have pain tolerance. You know, when something is going, let's say somebody is in the hospital, they could be pulling their hair out and biting their nails down to their, elbows, just about, with nervousness over the fact that the person they love is in the hospital. And that is a low tolerance for emotional pain. They just can't take it. It's like, the story of a person who maybe they had a burn or something, and their skin is raw, and they can't even, the nurse can't even change the bandage because it hurts so much. And yes, they have to change the bandage, but it hurts so much from a bad burn. So that's a lack of pain tolerance. However, what they have too much of is guilt and shame, right? Lack of self-love. The opposite, they have guilt and shame. Yeah. So now, what do they do with all these characteristics that are all about their anxiety? What do they do when they have to interact with their family? How does it come out to others? Let's see if you could come up with some things that happen when a person is anxious and how they treat their family members. They don't have patience. They don't have pain tolerance. They don't have skills. They could have anger. That's right. And it comes out in a form of blaming others, accusing others, losing it with others, not being understanding of what the other person's own mental and emotional state is, just because they're anxious. The story that I wrote up in Facebook and wherever else you saw this, my newsletter, was true. Somebody was yelling at the kids for being too loud, and they were very embarrassed and ashamed. And it's not like a big deal, but this anxious person couldn't even tolerate the noise. Now, as I was about to get my computer started for this, there was banging next door. And it went through my head, uh-oh, this is going to be bad. As it turned out, they stopped, and it's fine. But if I was an impatient person, an anxious person, I might have been eating myself up alive over that. Intolerance, exactly. Lack of empathy outside of their orb, right? They don't even have empathy for themselves. So they're going to be criticizing, blaming. And I get this a lot in therapy. And I have to say, it's my fault. One of you was in one of the programs that I do as a coaching program, not just therapy. And it's my fault that I didn't say up front, this can take a long time. I should have. It was a defined thing. It was 4 months long. I gave people extra time. The truth is, a lot of people, probably most people, need more time. It's not a 1, 2, 3 deal. And if you're an anxious person, you say, my spouse has been going to therapy with you for so many and so many months, and he hasn't changed, or she hasn't changed, or my child, or our family. And the truth is, you're right. There probably hasn't been enough change for it to make enough of a difference in your life to have that peace that you want at home. I may see changes. As a matter of fact, one person quit on me. I'm doing a whole family. And the father quit on me. And he said, this and this happened. And if this is happening, then that means therapy doesn't work. So I spent a few minutes and I said, hey, I texted, you have improved in this way, this way, this way, and this way. You. Now forget about the other people. But you know what? You still haven't done this other thing that we talked about, and we need to work on it. So you can recognize that there are changes even in yourself. So perhaps you can recognize that there are going to be some changes in your family as well. And he came back to therapy. I mean, it takes time. And you can't be an anxious person and recognize that and accept that and live with it. You'll get mad at me, you'll get mad at the people in the family, etc. It can be a lifetime journey to stay on top of being the best you can be. That's right. That's absolutely right. Sure thing. But aside from being the best, there is a huge difference in the household of anxious people and not anxious people. I mean, yeah, depressed, okay. But if you don't have those things, if you just have regular being on top of yourself, best you can be kind of things, it's a lot calmer and more peaceful at home than if you have an anxious family member. So it can become abusive. So now let's look at the children. What kinds of problems will the children grow up to have on account of an anxious parent? And since you guys are doing a good job of filling in for me, we are all tapestries in the making, being weaved and woven as we grow. And there is growth. Listen, you can grow up with an anxious parent and then you can improve. This is true. There's always growth. I don't want anybody to think this puts a kind of a seal on you that you're stuck with it. It's not. But before the therapy comes along, what can happen to the children? The same coping mechanisms, the same problems, like what? For an example, a child will not have self-esteem. Most likely, because if they were constantly criticized and blamed, how can they have self-esteem? Fear, doubt, double-minded, like their parents. Yes, exactly. Exactly. They won't have patience either with themselves, with others, etc. Exactly. Now, I want to explain to you here, when people say, my mother was anxious, so of course I'm anxious, it's genetic, what can I do? No, it's not genetic. You can clearly see from how I've shown how the behavior affects the next person, how it's not genetic. If someone's always after you because why didn't you get that done already? Why is it taking so long? I had a conversation with a husband on a Friday, right? And his wife has always complained that he doesn't do the to-do list that she'll verbally tell him. And he realized he could just write it down. And he even went looking for an app. But on Monday, when I saw the wife, they're separated. They refuse to be in the same room together because they are afraid they're just going to fight, and they're getting better. But on Monday, when I saw the wife, she said, see, he didn't do it yet. He had a weekend already. He had Saturday and Sunday. The family was busy doing family things. Give him a chance. Generational issues, but it's a generational issue, yes, because of the messages that your anxiety gives to the next generation. You're not good enough. You don't get the job done. You're not up to par. People who are anxious will blame their kids for something that didn't even happen. My such and such is missing. Why did you break it? Or why did you take it? Excuse me. They didn't even do that. But they're so anxious that they can't even sit and fill in that word. They can't even sit and that my thing is missing. My child did it. They didn't sit and think. Where could it be? Why? Yeah. Yeah, they'd be okay and think, where could the thing be that's missing? The thing is missing, whatever it is. The cookies from the cookie jar. I don't know, money from my wallet. Why blame the kid? Maybe it wasn't the kid who did it. Maybe you lost something. Maybe you misplaced it. That's one of the big problems, by the way. If you don't have patience because you're stirred up, your body chemistry is all stirred up from your anxiety, you also can't sit and think. And not only will you give that to your children, but if they can't sit and think because they learned from you how to be anxious, they are going to be good subjects of being brainwashed. Brainwashed by what's ever in the media, brainwashed at school by teachers, brainwashed by politicians, brainwashed by advertising. It is learned or absorbed from our surroundings. Exactly. Don't jump to conclusions, assume or mind read. But they can't not do that because that is what anxiety is. They can't stop. They're always jumping. They can't stop. That is the problem. So you have a very unfortunate case. A person is anxious. It's not their fault. They learned this behavior growing up. They became that way. And nobody had coping skills to use to calm themselves down. As somebody said earlier, self-regulate. No one learned that. So now they're stuck with it and they're passing it along to the kids. So if you're doing that, you're not thinking. And if you're not thinking, you are really going to be potentially prey to brainwashing. I mean, advertising has done that for years, decades, that's decades, 100 years. But now we have more and more social media that can brainwash us as well. And we don't even stop to question it because we're too anxious. And we turn on the TV or the computer just so as to calm our anxiety because that flickering there, the light flickering in front of us kind of puts us into a little bit of a trance. It is calming. So what are we calming ourselves with? Yeah. How do you cope with external pressure like deadlines without becoming anxious? Tax deadline, right. So the answer is a little, you may have been late or we may have been disconnected. I started out saying a little bit of anxiety, a little adrenaline is healthy. The difference between a person who is always anxious and a person who is situationally going to be a little bit revved up is how long it lasts and how much you take it out on everybody around you. Having anxiety and being anxious all the time are not the same as situationally responding. Like I said, if you need to run to catch a bus or a train, make a deadline, tax deadline, you're going to have a little adrenaline, and that adrenaline is good for you. It gets the job done. See the difference there? It seems like the media is just fear-mongering. It does. Deal with the parts that are controlling them. Well, who should deal with those parts? The person who wrote this, TP says, deal with the parts that are controlling them. Who should deal with those parts? The person themselves or you, the onlooker? Because I would say the person themselves. the onlooker is not going to be able to do anything to calm down that anxious person. Yeah, the anxious person, they have to go to therapy because taking a pill, the problem with the pill is this: you need it 24/7 in your system. Now, your body has a system of elimination. It's going to be constantly eliminating what you're putting in. And if your doctor gives you a higher dose, it's going to be eliminating that too. And your body chemistry is going to work harder to eliminate more. That's why people who are anxious and they get medication, they'll come to me 10 years later. I kid you not. They're still just as anxious. They've gone through 3, 4, 5, 6 different kinds. One person had 20 kinds of medication by the time she came to me, and she wasn't even old. The pills are going to absolutely be eliminated by your own body's chemistry that doesn't want stuff in there that doesn't belong in there. So it's, and the thinking process of, oh my God, is not going to go away from the medication. Self-aware. The onlooker can tend to their own nervous system state, yes, to tolerate the other anxious person. Or, yeah, if you have to tolerate them, like if it's your boss at work and you're not quitting, you have to tolerate them. If it's your child that's anxious, then I would take the child for therapy. If it's your spouse, I would beg and plead that they get therapy, because it is affecting you and it's affecting the next person down the generational line. So children will have low self-esteem. They will be not patient with themselves. They will have all the exact same list of problems that their parents had. They will think mistakenly that it's genetic when it wasn't. And worst of all the members of the family who are anxious or who have been affected by the anxious person will not even have the ability to sit and think, because that requires calmness. That requires a calm mind. You just can't do it if you're anxious. So when you add it up, how is it different from someone who's yelling and screaming and, maybe even hitting you? It's not significantly different. In fact, I will make the case that what I'm going to call covert abuse could be more dangerous and hurtful, traumatic to a child than overt abuse. Why? If a father, let's say, comes home raging, anybody knows that's not normal. The kid goes to school. He doesn't see his teacher doing that. So he knows, okay, my father has a temper problem. But if the person comes home and says to their child, I can't believe how slow you are. What's the matter with you? Are you stupid? Well, that coming from that anxiety is really deeply wounding, because the child cannot test reality that way. The child can't say to themselves, oh, my parent is just anxious. The kid can't figure that one out. Even his spouse can't figure that one out. That's why I'm giving you this. So you will. You'll know. You'll have it. Yeah. So I'm saying it can be more of a form of covert abuse, which, because it's covert, no one puts their finger on it and says, oh, that's abuse. I just had somebody reported to me in a family I'm working with that one parent said to one of the children, they wanted to pass the salt, and they were talking to someone at the table. They didn't hear it. And the parent said, how oblivious you are. So now the child thinks when they finally get to hear what the message was, that there's something wrong with them. I'm oblivious. I don't get what's going on around me. That's not right. That's not right to make that kind of a statement and have the kid absorb that. That's why I call it abuse. And it's actually covert because it doesn't sound like abuse. It just sounds like a statement you're making. But it's coming from that anxiety that you wanted to say something you didn't get listened to, and I got to get listened to right now. I need that salt. Come on. Is there anyone here who's been in attendance who doesn't feel that I made the case for why this is abuse? I want you to argue with me. We have 2 minutes left. No, we don't. We're on the last minute. That's okay. Good. Then I guess I'm not hearing it. So, and I like to be argued with. It's good. I like the answers. I like the thinking. Yeah. Yeah. Now, again, the person doesn't intend to be abusive. Most anxious people are very nice people who aren't very nice to themselves even. I mean, they don't mean harm. But the end result is a problem. That's why I'm sharing this, so that if you know someone like that who needs therapy, they will be gotten into therapy. Thank you. Yeah. And therapy could take its time, and that's okay. As long as you get to the end goal. The begging I was mentioning next door, their house had a fire a year ago. It was almost a year. It was May. Look at that. And I walked in there, I saw it. It didn't even, they just have like wooden, beams and rafters and whatever. They took it all down and started over, and it's a year. So if it takes that long to build a house over again, the structure outside stays, then how could it not take enough time that you need to fix your heart and soul? If it is hyperanxiety, can feel like it to those that are hit by the tidal wave. Yeah, it can. But I'm saying it's almost worse if it's not calm anxiety, but covert. It just doesn't sound like real abuse, What's the matter with you? Are you stupid? Coming from the person who's anxious to see some kind of results, that's very, very, very traumatizing, because you start to think of yourself as stupid. It's terrible. So thank you, guys. Thank you for your comments. I'm so glad the chat worked. I think I just had to click the little thing on top. They think they're being helpful. You know what? It's helpful to praise the positive. It's not helpful to call out the negative. It isn't. And it builds over time, the covert part. Yeah. All right, you guys, thank you so much for comments, for showing up, for being here. I love it. And you know what? I never said this before, but share. If you like these, share them. What I've noticed is that people subscribe because they want the 1 minute shorts. But sometimes you need to take more than a minute to get some meat and potatoes out of one of these. So share the long ones if you like it. Thank you. Thank you.